Everyone has a blessed and pleasant day. How are you? Well, I hope you're all doing great despite the weather. I am lovely B. Mendoza from BSED English 3B, and I am your discussant for the topic Literary Language and Organic Unity. So without further ado, let's start the discussion. Students should be able to do the following expected learning outcomes at the end of the lesson. I only have three requests for the discussion. Listen attentively, take note, and reflect. Please be guided during the discussion through the sequence of the contents. The importance of a literary text formal features is a result of the nature of literary language, which according to new criticism differs significantly from scientific and common language. The denotation or the one-to-one connection between words and the things or concepts they represent is crucial in both scientific and ordinary language. Scientific language doesn't aim to be beautiful or emotionally evocative, and it doesn't call attention to itself. Its role is to point to the physical world beyond it, which it tries to describe and explain. Literary language, on the other hand, is based on connotation, the inference, suggestion, association, and evocation of meanings. For example, while the word mother denotes female parent, it connotes flexibility, love, warmth, and security. In addition, literary language is expressive. It conveys tone, attitude, and emotion. Even while daily language is frequently connotative and expressive, it is not done so consciously or methodically because its primary goal is to be practical. The goal of everyday language is to get things done. Literary language, on the other hand, arranges linguistic resources in a unique way, a complicated unity to produce an aesthetic experience to a unique world. In contrast to scientific and everyday language, literary language's form, the word choice and arrangement that creates the aesthetic experience is inextricably linked to its substance or meaning. Simply said, what a literary piece means is inextricably linked to how it means. And indeed, the work's organic unity, the working together of all the parts to make an inseparable whole, is the criterion by which new critics judge the quality of a literary work. When a text has an organic unity, all of its formal components work together to produce work subject or overall meaning. The text gives both the complexity that a literary text or work must have in order to effectively reflect the complexity of human existence and the order that people seek through nature via its organic coherence. For new criticisms, it is said that the evaluation of literary greatness and the explanation of literary meaning has become one and same practice. That is, when a new critic elucidates the natural structure or organic unity of the text, he or she also is building its claim to the fullest. For new criticism, the intricacy of a text is the outcome of complex and diverse meanings woven through it. And these meanings are product primarily of four kinds of linguistic devices such as paradox, irony, ambiguity, and tension. Paradox is a statement that seems self-contradictory but represents the actual way things are. For example, it is a biblical paradox that you must lose your life in order to gain it. On the surface, the phrase seems self-contradictory. How can you get an object by losing it? Here, the phrase only says that by surrendering physical life or the life of flesh, we can obtain another divine life, which is the eternal life of our soul. New critics observed that most of biblical references and life stories are paradoxical in nature. This led them to the understanding that paradox is accountable for much of the complexity of human experience and of the literature that portrays it. Common examples of paradox: less is more, the pen is mightier than the sword, do the thing you think you cannot do. Other examples of paradoxical statements found in prose, poem, movies, and everyday conversations are flashed on the screen. Irony, in its most basic sense, is a statement or event undermined by the context in which it occurs. An example of ironic statements are the following descriptions of a wealthy husband's sense of moral rectitude from Edith Wharton's House of Mirth, 1905. Once in the winter the rector would come to dine, and her husband would beg her to go over the list and see that no divorces were included, except those who had showed signs of penitence by being remarried to the very wealthy. The husband's hypocrisy is exactly the ironic implication of this passage, as he condemns divorce only if it is disobeyed by the acquisition of equal or greater wealth. So what he really censures under the manner of moral principles is financial face down. An example of irony of events, on the other hand, can be found in novel entitled The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. The character Piccola heavily wishes for blue eyes and eventually received it. Her wish has been granted only for she has lost touch with reality so thoroughly that she assumed her brown eyes are blue. New criticisms, on the other hand, appreciated irony in a broader sense, as in a text presentation of several viewpoints on the same people or events. We see this kind of irony, for example, when Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility offers us perspectives from which we may utterly condemn Willoughby for his treachery to Marianne, forgive him because his behavior resulted from a combination of love, financial desperation, and a weakness of character which he himself laments, sympathize with him for the severity of the punishment his behavior has brought upon him, and see the ways in which Marian's willful foolishness contributed to her own heartbreak. Given that there are so many possible point of view is considered ironic since the credibility of each position weakens the credibility of the others to some extent. As a consequence, the text meaning becomes more complex, reflecting the richness of human experience and increasing the text credibility. The ironic event above would have become susceptible to the reader's skepticism, which would make the readers at an ironic distance from the text. That is, the own internal irony of the text protects it from the external irony of the reader's disbelief. Many common phrases and situations reflect irony. Irony often stems from an unexpected response or unexpected outcome. Here are common examples of irony. Though there are many forms of irony as a literary device, its three main forms are verbal, dramatic, and situational. Verbal irony sets forth a contrast between what is literally said and what is actually meant. In dramatic irony, the state of the action or what is happening, as far as what the reader or viewer knows, is the reverse of what the players or characters suppose it to be. Situational irony refers to circumstances that turn out to be the reverse of what is expected or considered appropriate. Examples of each main forms are given and flashed on the screen. Common example of situational irony includes a long-hair barbershop owner, a dentist with severe tooth decay, a car mechanic that can change a tire, and so on. Examples of verbal irony from literature. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Examples of dramatic irony from literature. Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Ambiguity occurs when a word, image, or event generates two or more different meanings. In scientific or everyday language, ambiguity is usually considered a flaw because it's equated with a lack of clarity and precision. In literary language, however, ambiguity is considered a source of richness, depth, and complexity that adds to the text value. Finally, tension, which is defined as the tying together of opposites, contributes to the complexity of a literary work. The combination of the abstract and the concrete of broad concepts expressed in specific features creates tension in its most basic form. Concrete universals, images, and fictional characters that have meaning on both a literal and symbolic level, where their meaning is literal and specific, and a symbolic level where their meaning is universal, are considered a form of tension because they hold the opposing realms of physical and symbolic reality together in a way that it is characteristic of literary language. Tension is also created by the dynamic interplay among text's opposing tendencies, that is, among its paradoxes, ironies, and ambiguities. As previously said, a literary work's complexity, which all of these language strategies contribute to, must be balanced by a sense of order if it is to reach greatness. As a result, the text paradoxes, ironies, ambiguities, and tensions must reconcile or harmonize all of the numerous and contradictory interpretations created by their joint contribution to the topic. The theme or overall meaning and the topic of the text are different. The theme is what the text does with its topic. As a result, the theme is a reflection of human experience, and if the writing is good, the theme may also be a commentary on human ideals, human nature, or the human situation. The new critic established the text's organic coherence by close reading, a meticulous analysis of the intricate link between a text's formal components and its topic. Considering new criticism believes that one of the most important way to comprehend a literary piece is to understand its form. A thorough grasp of the definitions of certain formal components is always essential. We should briefly describe a few of the most commonly forms of figurative language, pictures, symbols, metaphors, and similes, in addition to the formal components such as the linguistic devices of paradox, irony, ambiguity, and tension as discussed earlier. Figurative language is language that has more than or other than a strictly literal meaning. For example, her smile was a mile wide. Someone cannot actually have a mile wide smile. The figure of speech simply means that they have a very big smile. Another example, it's raining cats and dogs, is a figurative expression used to indicate that the rain is very heavy. If it were taken without comprehension, then the phrase would mean, of course, that actual cats and dogs were falling from the sky. A word or words that relate to an item encountered by the senses or to sense perception themselves, such as colors, forms, lights, noises, taste, scents, textures, temperatures, and so on, make up an image as demonstrated by our usage of the term earlier. Specifically, most common in the practice of analyzing literary text, imagery is visual, which consists of descriptions of characters, settings, and objects for they are perceived by the eye. Although images always have literal meaning, they can still evoke an emotional atmosphere as well. For example, a description of dark clouds can be used to evoke sadness. A description of love can evoke joy and happiness. A description of color blue can evoke peace and freedom in some culture. Public symbols are usually easy to spot, and majority of public icons are easily identifiable. For example, pilgrim hat symbolizes Thanksgiving holiday. Image of shopping cart symbolizes online purchases. Spring is usually a symbol of rebirth or youth. Autumn is usually a symbol of death or dying, and butterflies can symbolize great transformation. A metaphor has only figurative meaning. It's a comparison of two dissimilar objects in which the properties of one are ascribed to the other. For example, the phrase, "My mother's a diamond," is a metaphor. Obviously, it has no literal meaning. The figurative meaning of the phrase, which is the only meaning it has, is that my mother shares certain properties with a diamond. For example, she is of great worth and value. Thus, she's a diamond is generally used to mean she's worth and a valuable woman. There are many common examples of metaphor in everyday conversation and writing as well. Here are some well known uses of this figure of speech. Laughter is the best medicine. Is there a black sheep in your family? I smell success in this building. Time is money. No man is an island, and more. Simile is used in everyday conversation and writing. Here are some well known phrases that utilize this figure of speech: cheeks like roses, eyes like glass, sweet as sugar, bright as the sun, and so on.